All right, let's look at chapter 19. Exercitationes, the exercises. Number 1, quis libertatem eorum eo tempore delere coipet. It begins right here with your interrogative pronoun. The quis, the nominative singular masculine, could be feminine. Who has begun, this is your complementary infinitive, to destroy, to delete the freedom, accusative singular feminine, of them or their freedom, genitive, plural, masculine or feminine, equals in this case their, at that time. Who began to delete, to destroy their freedom at that time? I know delere means to destroy and not necessarily delete, but obviously we get delete from it, so sometimes I think it's just helpful to think of it as delete. Not the best translation admittedly, but that just helps me remember the word. Number 2, Cuius libertas ab isto actore dende deleta est. Lots in this sentence. Begins right off with the interrogative pronoun. So it is genitive, singular, could be masculine, could be feminine. The interrogative pronoun, that's its use in the sentence. Whose freedom deleta est. Freedom has been destroyed. Deleta est, third person, singular, present perfect, passive, indicative. Notice the A at the ending matches the, because now we have to say also nominative singular feminine because it modifies libertas. Whose libertas, dende, at that time, them, was destroyed ab isto actore. No surprise here with a passive verb. No surprise that we have the ablative singular masculine use in the sentence, ablative of personal agent. Whose freedom was then destroyed by that author. Number 3, quos libros bonos poeta caecus heri recitavit. Quos, in this case, it's your interrogative adjective. It modifies libros, which is accusative, plural masculine, as does bonus. There's your direct object. What good books did the poet, nominative, singular masculine. What kind of poet? The blind poet. Recitavit, recite. Third person singular. Present perfect. Active indicative. Use in the sentence. Main verb. Main verb. What good books did the poet, the blind poet, recite yesterday? Number 4. Feminae libros difficiles cras legent quos misiste. Notice here, the author, Wheelock, put these together because this quos is not your interrogative pronoun. It is not asking a question. In this case, it is the relative pronoun. Relative pronoun. That's the use in the sentence. It is pronoun. It is accusative, plural, masculine. And it modifies libros, the antecedent in libros. Use in the phrase accusative plural masculine because it's the direct object of the verb in the relative clause, misisti, second person singular, present, perfect, active, indicative. Use in the sentence, verb in main clause, relative clause, verb in the relative clause. The women, nominative, plural, masculine. The women legent, third person singular, present, active, indicative. The women are reading, or read, or legere. The women will read, that's not the present, it's the future. The women will, how do I know? How did I catch myself on that one? Cross means tomorrow. This is just your adverb. Cross, we get procrastination. If I'm pro something, I am for something, and cross means tomorrow. So this is for tomorrow. That's what procrastination is. This is for tomorrow. So the women will read tomorrow the difficult books which you sent. Omnia flumina in mare fluunt, et cum eo miscentur. So with this et here, this is a very strong, it means we have two different sentences. It's a strong this and that. So flumina In mare, that's just a prepositional phrase. Fluent. I like the Latin. Flumens fluent. Rivers. See, in English we have to say rivers flow. But in Latin, you can say a flumen fluunts. Well, that's not the Latin. It doesn't have the S. Side note, I just like the way that river and flow are used, come from the same base, unlike English. That's all I'm saying. Omnia flumina, nominative. Plural, neuter. Omnia modifies it. Fluunt, third person plural. Present active indicative. All rivers flow. In mare, in plus the accusative. In plus the accusative equals into. All rivers flow into the sea. And cum eo, with it, eo refers to the mare, they are mixed. Misco, this is your third person plural. Present perfect. Present passive, present passive indicative. All rivers flow into the sea and are mixed with it. Number 6. Itaque id genus ludorum levium, quod a multis familiis laudabatur, nos ipsi numquam cupimus. And so, that type, this is your nominative, id modifies it, that type of games, of sport, genitive, plural, ludus is masculine, and levium, light, not serious, sport. Quod a multis familiis laudabatur, that's a relative pronoun. This is your relative clause, your relative pronoun. Use in the sentence, quod is the direct object, so it's the accusative, singular, neuter. The antecedent is genus, that type, which, and so its use in the sentence, it's the direct object in the relative clause. We ourselves, this is the intensive, ipsi, we ourselves, we never desire. Excuse me. This is just desire, nominative, first person plural, present, active indicative. The focus of this sentence is the laudabatur, which is your verb in the relative clause. It's the, notice here we have the tense indicator BA and the passive ending because it's the passive system. Third person singular, imperfect, passive indicative. A multis familiis, what is that? This is your ablative of personal agent. Again, with a passive voice, you need to look for either the ablative of means, if it's an inanimate object, or if it's a personal agent, if it's a person, you use the ablative of personal agent. What about a dog? Generally, dogs are considered people. So with dogs in Latin, they would use the ablative of personal agent. That's a stretch. I'm not saying the Romans considered dogs people. I'm just saying in the passive voice, they would use the preposition with a dog. Because I know you were wondering. Let's go on to number 7. Pueri et puellae propter facta bona, a matribus patribusque laudatae sunt. Here's a passive voice right there. It's the end of the verb. Third person plural. Present perfect passive indicative. Not only that, it is the, we don't know, we have the nominative plural feminine ending on it. So it would, now in this case, the subject is pueri et puellae, boys and girls. So what case you're going to take? In this specific case, and it's not always the case, the laudatae is going to take the case of the one that's closer, which is the puellae. Propter, because of, propter just means because of, and it takes the accusative also, because of good deeds. The boys and the girls, because of good deeds, a patribus, should have expected that ablative of personal agent. Use in the sentence, ablative of personal agent, use in the sentence because it's the passive voice. Something has to be done by somebody. Number 8. Cur isti veritatem timebant, qua multi adjuti erant. Notice we have a relative clause here. This is a relative pronoun, not the interrogative pronoun. Why? This is just your interrogative word. Why? Why did those guys, here's your subject, the pronoun, the demonstrative pronoun, isti, nominative plural masculine, used substantively. Why did those men fear timebant? Whoops. Timebant, third person, plural, imperfect, active, indicative. The truth, accusative, singular, feminine. Why did those men fear the truth? By which, qua in its use, it is the ablative, singular, feminine. The antecedent is veritatem, truth, by which use in the sentence is ablative of means. Again, we expect the ablative of means or the ablative of agent with the passive adjuti erant, third person plural, pluperfect, passive indicative, and what else? A nominative plural masculine, because that's the ending on it here. Why do those men fear the truth by which many had been helped? Number 9. Hoste strons ingens flumen in Graecia dende quito navigare in caperunt. The enemy, there's your subject, go to the end of the verb. The subject, the enemy began, took on, began navigare, this is your complementary infinitive. Specifically your present active infinitive. The enemy began to sail across the huge river. The flumen is accusative, singular neuter, and it's just the subject of the preposition, the object of the preposition trans. Across the river in Greece, then, adverb, quito, adverb quickly. Then the enemy began to sail swiftly across the huge river in Greece. Number 10. Qui vir fortis clarusque de quo legiste aetatem brevem mortem quae celerem expectabat. So, de quo legisti, let's get that out of the way. That's your relative clause. About whom, this is your ablative singular feminine, singular masculine. We just know, in reading through it, I know it goes up to vir because that's the only other noun, really, that it could go with. About whom you have read. Legisti is second person singular, present, perfect, active indicative. I got that. Normally I wouldn't tackle the relative clause first. I saw it there. It was a few words, about whom you have read. That's fine. It was easy enough to get that out of the way. Sometimes that's the only reason I chose to do that first. Qui vir, what man? This is the interrogative adjective. What man? What kind of man? A brave and famous man. What brave and famous man, about whom you have read. What did he do? He awaited, third person singular, imperfect, active indicative. He awaited a aetatem, this is what he awaited for, and a mortem. He awaited a aetatem brevem, a short lifespan and a swift death. What brave and famous man, about whom you have read, looked out for or expected a short life and a quick death? Yeah, the answer to that is Achilles in this sentence. Number 11. Quae studia gravia te semper delectant? Quae nunc desideras? Quae studia, this is your interrogative pronoun, in this case, the interrogative adjective, because it is nominative, plural, neuter, and it modifies studia, as does gravia. What serious subject studies delectant, third person singular, singular plural, present, active indicative. What serious studies always delight you? What do you now desire? I think the serious studies that always delight you is Latin. What do you now desire? More Latin. I answered that for you. Number 12. What was neglected by the second student, not the first one, the second student yesterday? What is your accusative, singular, neuter? It is the interrogative pronoun. The interrogative pronoun, we can fill that in. We know what it is. It's quid. What? Was neglected is your verb. I said, excuse, let me back that up. It's nominative, singular, neuter. What was, because it's the subject of the verb. That was careless of me. Moving on. Was neglected. Third person, singular, present perfect. Present perfect. Passive, indicative. If you know it's the perfect tense and you know it's passive, no matter what, this is going to be built off the fourth principal part. Period. It's passive, it's in the perfect system, and it's passive. Therefore, fourth principal part, we know that's going to be some form of neglectum, because that's the fourth principal part. It's a short enough sentence. Let's go ahead and tackle that. Neglectum est. What was neglected by the second student? This is going to be your ablative of personal agent. Secondo, student, discipolo. Yesterday. Harry, sorry. You know what? Interesting enough, Harry is the Latin for yesterday. Ieri is the Italian. I tend to flip into ieri instead of Harry just when I write it. So quid a secondo discipolo Harry neglectum est. Yeah, we're going to stick that in there. Just put it right up in that spot. Let's see. We were helped by the knowledge which had been neglected by him. So, which had been neglected by him is a relative clause. We'll set that aside. We were helped. This is going to be your first person plural. Imperfect, passive, indicative. We were helped by the knowledge. This is going to be your ablative of means, so that we don't need to worry about the word for by, or the, for that matter. Ablative, singular feminine, which had been neglected. So the knowledge, which, the antecedent of which is going to be the number and gender, So it is singular feminine. The case is dictated by the use in the sentence, and it is nominative because had been neglected is your third person singular. Pluperfect, passive, indicative. By him, in this case, it is the ablative of personal agent. We will have a word for by, and him is ablative singular masculine. Wow, lot going on. We were helped. Ad ut sumus. Ad ut. We were helped by the knowledge. Sapientia. With the macron, because that's the A. By the knowledge which. Quae. Let's stick in the by him now. Ab eo. By him had been neglected. The fourth principal part, neglecta, because the subject is quae, okay? So neglecta, erat, it's pluperfect. Adjuti sumus sapientia, quae ab eo neglecta es. Erat. Whose plans did the old men of all cities fear? So in this case, this is your interrogative pronoun. The interrogative pronoun. This is genitive. Plural. Whose plans? No, we'll make it singular. It could be genitive singular. Masculine. It doesn't matter in this case. We don't know whose they're talking about. Whose plans? Was it those guys or was it his? Don't know. We'll pick one. Plans is nominative. plural, and we're going to use the neuter word. The old men, the men, the old ones, the men, nominative, plural, masculine, of all cities. This is going to be genitive, plural, feminine. All is going to modify it. Fear, third person, plural, present. Men did fear. Let's use present perfect. Present perfect, active, indicative. So, whose plans? Quius. Concilia. What do you want to use for old men? The old men, the old men. The weary. What can we use for old? The old men. I'll think of that. The old men of all cities. Urbium. Omnium. I stem, so you got to get that urbium in there. Did they fear? Tim u erunt. What plans did the men of all cities fear? What plans did they esteem? Now notice, okay, this is good. This is the interrogative pronoun, whose. Which plans is the interrogative adjective because it has something to modify. The plans, so it's going to be quae concilia. Which plans did they esteem? Delego, delegere, delegi, delexerunt. So notice the difference. Pronoun, whose. The plans of whom did they fear? But what plans is an adjective. Pronoun alone doesn't modify anything. Quae, the second one, what plans, what modifies plans. So that's the adjective, and it has to agree with the adjective. What plans did they esteem? And for old men, we can say weary. We use substantive senes. What plans did the old men of all cities fear? Whose plans did the men of all cities fear? What plans did they esteem? Did they value? Sententiae antiquae. Quae est natura animi est mortalis. What is the nature? I think this is not terribly difficult. Nominative, in this particular case, nominative singular feminine, because it goes in order. What is the nature of the soul or the mind of the spirit? It is mortal. I don't know the philosophy here. I'm just saying that's the grammar. Number 2. Illa argumenta visa sunt, et gravia et certa. So, those, I don't think we've talked about this. Visa sunt, video, videre, vidi, visum. That means to see. But in the passive, it equals to seem or appear. In other words, he seems tired. That means he is seen to be tired in the Latin, in the logic. So those arguments, illa argumenta, those arguments seem. Third person plural, present perfect, passive indicative, nominative, plural, neuter. Those arguments seem at. I'm not going to, not double line, et equals both. And. So, those arguments seem both serious and sure. Yeah, I like that. Those arguments seem, appear. Quid nos facere contra istos et scelera eorum debemus? What? Your interrogative pronoun. Interrogative pronoun. What ought we? Debemus. Pronoun. Debemus. First person plural. Present active indicative. What ought we to do? Against those. Contra istos. Against those and the crimes of those. What are we going to do against those, istos, those men, and the crimes of those men and their crimes? Kind of, not contra, kind of means in the face of. Oh, I like that. What are we going to do in the face of them and their crimes? That's good. Number 4, quid ego egi. Yeah, I like that. Quid ego egi. What have I done? Egi is ago, agere. Third principal part is egi, actum. What have I done? Quid ego egi. I like that. The ego is the emphatic, just there for emphasis. Into what danger? This is the relative pronoun. The quod, it's not the subject, it just modifies periculum. Into what danger have I been thrown? Iactus sum. First person singular, present, perfect, active indicative. Nominative singular masculine because it modifies the subject. Quid ego egi, what have I done? Into what danger have I been thrown? O Dio mortalis, in qua urbe vivimus, quam civitatem habemus, quae scelera videmus. Notice the relative, the interrogative pronouns here. O immortal gods, in what city, in qua urbe vivimus do we live? Quam civitatem, what state habemus do we hold? Quae scelera, what crimes do we see? Good stuff there. Number 6, qui sunt boni cives nisi ei qui beneficia patria memoria tenet. Who are good citizens? Who are this is your interrogative pronoun. Who are good citizens? And if not, nisi means if not. If not, those, this is nominative, plural, masculine. It's a form of is, ea, id, the nominative plural masculine form. Unless those who, qui is your interrogative pronoun, the nominative plural masculine. If not those who hold the kindnesses, the benefits, accusative plural neuter, of the country land, of the country in the memory. Memoria, we hold in memory, we remember. And number 7, alia, quae pecunia parantor ab eo stulto paratae sunt, at mores eos veros amicos parare non potuerunt. Other things, nominative, plural neuters, your substantive, which are obtained pecunia, ablative of means, by money, have been prepared, parata sunt, by that foolish man, ablative of personal agent. Good use of it. They are prepared by money, ablative of means, by that, have been prepared, have been obtained by that foolish man. At mores eus veros amicos parare non potuerunt, but the morals of him, eus, genitive singular masculine, was not able, non potuerunt, to obtain amicos veros, true friends. So, other things which are obtained by money have been obtained or were obtained by that foolish man. But his morals were not able to obtain true friends. All right, that's it.